Hi, thank you so much for clicking that little button that allows you to watch this video. My name is Katie Marietta Tondon, and I appreciate your time more than you know. I just wanted to give you a brief introduction to the video you're about to watch so you understand the background behind it and why it was conducted. So I am the founder of Lit Up, and I am on a mission to connect spiritual seekers who are experiencing a spiritual awakening with vetted, trusted lightworker practitioners who can help them on their journey. And in doing that, I'm trying to create a community for spiritual seekers to be able to talk about the things that they're experiencing and work together on developing their intuition. And I'm also developing an app, which will be a lightworker directory of vetted, trusted practitioners. In doing those things, I am conducting customer interviews to determine exactly what it is that people need. So what you're about to watch is one of those interviews where I talked to someone who has experienced a spiritual awakening and has also become a light worker practitioner in some way. And so you're going to hear their story, their vulnerability, and courage in sharing it because it is such a sacred thing that we go through. And so I did want to just explain that that's what you're about to see, and also to tell you that my interview style is a bit dry, and that was intentional, although it might not be as pleasant for you to watch. It is because I was trying not to influence or sway their responses in any way. I wanted a true, authentic response from their viewpoint, and I didn't want to encourage any answers in any particular way. So just wanted to give that brief background so that you understand where we're coming from and why I'm presenting this in this way. It's a little bit different than a podcast.
All right. Well, and you pronounced your name Shawnda Eilert, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Well, we'll get going. We'll just dive right in. Okay. Well, so we'll start with the spiritual seeker side of things, just because I mean that's usually the kind of chronological way that this happens. Is we go through this spiritual awakening or identification of kind of this spiritual path that we want to lead, and then that leads to the lightworker practitioner side of things. So I just wanted to kind of take it in that order. All right, so the first question is, think back to the moment when you first realized you were going through a spiritual awakening. What were you feeling, and what was the first thing you did after that realization?
One of the major things, because I've always had been a strong empath with abilities, but I did shut my third eye down when I was like 8 years old. And about 4 years ago, I think, my biological father, he was sick and like really severely sick. And I lived 45 minutes away. Well, at that point, I was also sick.
Hmm.
And I just knew it's like, oh, I really, this was on a Monday. And I'm like, I really have got to go see him, but I really don't feel like driving. So I didn't go. That was Monday. He passed away for our Wednesday. So, and before that, I had almost died 3 times in 6 months in 2020. So, and this was May of 21. So I'm like, you know what? God is telling me something. Creator is definitely telling me something. Almost died 3 times in 6 months. And then I did not follow my intuition. And I knew I was supposed to follow my intuition. I mean, I just knew it. Well, so after that, I'm like, I'm always going to follow my intuition.
Okay. Okay, so that was a distinct point at which you said, okay, things are shifting for me, and you had this like realization of following your intuition versus what I guess our mental minds tell us to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so what did that then start to look like if you said, okay, I'm gonna follow my intuition? What did you, start doing differently?
Well, I was getting divorced and I had kind of pushed it off, pushed it off, pushed it off, because I was waiting for my youngest son to graduate high school. I packed a few things and moved 350 miles away. And within about 6 months, I was seeking a spiritual teacher and started my classes. Because I'm like, okay, at that point, I didn't understand, oh, we need to ground, we need boundaries and all this. I didn't understand that. So
Hmm.
I started like literally from ground zero with the basic tools. And so then I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I just knew this is what I'm supposed to do. So I just start following. And just one thing I've learned now is life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us.
Hmm.
So it's how and I don't react anymore, I respond. And that's made a huge difference. And if my body tells me something's not right, nope. I mean, it's to me, it's like, nope, that's a fact, period. I
Yeah.
don't question it.
But you have to get to, like, you have to develop that skill and that recognition too. And so over the time, how did you, sorry, a hawk just flew by my window, kind of caught my eye. um, so how did you, when you were like, okay, I need to seek guidance, spiritual guidance, um, what was that decision making like for you in deciding who to work with? Like, how did you decide, oh, yes, this person I want to work with versus, somebody else who you may have said, no, they're not for me?
I went, if you feel a rapport with them,
Hmm.
like if for me it was, can I, it sounds terrible, but can I listen to them talk?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, and if I felt like they were almost like an old friend kind of thing, then that's definitely, a thing for me. And then what I've really noticed now, because I've had three different teachers that I've been taking classes from, integrity.
Hmm.
Integrity is huge. If I don't feel that they are 100% authentic and have that integrity, yeah, that person's definitely not for me.
Uh-huh. So if
But
you
the
get
person,
any kind of red flag where you're like, oh, they said this thing, but I saw that twitch in their eye or whatever.
well, once again, I've started paying attention to my body.
Mm.
And, your intuition is the first 3 seconds. So if you're just like, that didn't sound right, then that's a trigger for me. And with me, my no, I get, okay, for yes, it's like I get kind of like a butterfly feeling.
Mhm.
And for no, I get nauseous.
Mm. Yeah.
So if I feel like they're not right, I get this kind of nauseous, kind of yucky feeling in my gut. And I've been, but that does take time. You have to really pay attention. And one thing that I was taught was say your name aloud. My name is such and such. So if obviously you're going to make up a name, well, pay attention how your body feels. But then you say, my name is Shawnda. Then you could feel,
Mm.
and you do different things like that with a fact versus, something that's not true. And that's a good trick to learning, what your answers are and to start paying attention to your body.
I love that trick. Now, did you learn that from one of these um, people that you sought out? Is that something you,
Yes.
okay. And so how did you find these people that you ended up working with?
Um, it's kind of funny, but the first one just came across my feed.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, I can listen to her. And then I started following my second one. Um, I followed her for about a year and a half, watching her very carefully, you know, taken all of their free stuff. And now I've taken several of her classes
Hmm.
because she is very, very high on integrity. And I respect that. So I actually respect her. And to me, that's a huge thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, trust is probably the top thing that I've heard repeatedly from people that I'm interviewing. And also that kind of gut feeling about, who they are and what they're about. So that makes sense. Okay, so so you've found them through, I guess, social media primarily, right?
The first one,
The first
and
one.
she was,
Okay.
yeah, she was having like a 4 day, you know, master class kind of thing. And then with the second um, one of the people that I was in class with was taking another course through
Okay.
her.
Okay.
And so then she had a really long free master class. So I've started to really, really paying attention to, oh, well, what she's saying. Yeah, I believe that. You know,
Hmm.
that's along my kind of view. And because I could really just relate to her, I followed her. And then I've taken more classes and more classes, more classes.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
getting ready to take another one. So
Awesome.
taking it
Yeah, well,
deeper.
yeah, it's so interesting how we can like reach out to these people or these resources and like maybe you'll just get one little piece of information from them and that's what you needed.
Mhm.
Or like with her, she's providing so much value to you that you're able to continue working with her. That's awesome. Okay, and then for the third person that you worked with, how did you come
Um,
across them?
somebody kind of referred me to them,
Hmm.
and that was um, a male teacher. And I know that I have shamanism in my ancestors, and I know that that's one thing that's supposed to come forward. Well, he is a shaman. And so I've taken a couple classes from him. But then honestly, I've started listening to him more, and I'm like, okay, I've learned enough.
Mm,
There's some things I didn't relate further with. So, you know, once you relate to somebody, you'll learn to stay with them because
yeah.
they can take you further and
Right.
deeper because you trust them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do know when you've reached that limit too. It's like, okay,
Yes.
well, I don't think I'm getting anything else from this. So yeah, then it's time to move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so did you let's see. So for the first one that was social media, did you do any like upfront research on these people at all, or did you kind of just go with your gut feeling on working with
Honestly,
them?
I listened to some other people that had taken their classes,
Okay, yeah.
you know,
So
what
word
they
of mouth.
said. So
Yeah.
yeah, word of mouth, definitely.
Hmm.
And then also strong gut feeling because
Okay.
I could relate to them. So if you don't relate to someone, yeah, you don't want to follow.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you're in school, how you have your favorite teacher and you learn more because they're your favorite teacher.
Yeah. That's so
So
simply put and just so true.
yeah,
Yeah.
most of us can go, oh yeah, I remember that teacher, or oh, I remember that teacher.
Right. Yeah. Very true. Okay, and so with each of these I don't know what to call them, teachers, I guess practitioners, did you feel prepared for what they were going to provide you, or did you ever have any kind of surprising moments as you worked with them, or did you feel kind of mostly prepared for what you were getting into with them?
Mostly prepared
Hmm.
because I had either talked to people or I taken like a free master class or, you know, kind of I had found out who they were. But by taking their classes, then you're like, okay, I can either go further with this or I need to stop.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it definitely, you get a little bit taste of them, and then you can see how far you can go with them.
Yeah.
But you listen to your gut to, okay, well, I've gone far enough.
Yeah. Right. It's just a kind of a continual level set check of like, okay, do I need to go further or yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then I guess as you were developing your spiritual beliefs, did you because for me anyway, it was like an abrupt change to what my previous beliefs were, and so I had like this really quite life-changing shift of belief. And I
Mhm.
wonder, did you have any kind of big shifts in your belief as you were going through, or has this just been like a really gradual process for you?
One of the biggest shifts was kind of strange. Um, I grew up very religious in a very religious family. And matter of fact, I went to a religious school, and I really didn't believe in reincarnation, so to speak. I knew that the soul never died. And then so when I started learning, and I'm like, well, the soul never dies. So why wouldn't we reincarnate? So it just kind of I when I opened my mind to the possibility. But the strangest thing, because I'm like, okay, we can incarnate again, okay, but people should be people, and animals should be animals, and tree should be a tree. No. Then I'm like, oh wow.
Okay.
So it's really because we are all everything is connected,
Yes.
and so that was that was a huge shift because I'm like, oh wow, because I've learned that my cat was my sister in a previous life, and so I was like, oh wow, no wonder they acted. A lot of people say, well, my dog or my cat acts like a human. Well, you think?
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, so we choose. I mean, which we choose to incarnate. We choose our parents, we choose our soul. So of course we can choose what we want to come back as.
Yeah, I love that. And so as you were shifting, because that was like a realization within a realization. So
Yeah.
as you were opening your mind to this new concept, what were you going through? Like, did you feel like you could tell people what you were now believing, or like, and I mean, I guess even to this point, like, do you feel open to share who you are fully, or are you ever limited in how much you share with people?
um Kind of limited in some things because it's in the human mind it's so far-fetched, but because we're literally taught, oh well, we can't do that. I mean, we're taught from the time that we're babies. Oh well, you can't do that. You can't do that because it's going to hurt you.
Right.
Well, and how many times have you heard love hurts? Well, technically it can, but you take that hurt and you grow from it. You
Hmm.
have to hurt in order to grow and achieve more and learn, oh well, okay, so I don't, I was married before and got divorced, and it's like, okay, well, now instead of foot, you can look at it two ways. Oh, I don't want a husband like that again. Or you can go, you know what, this is the kind of husband I do want. And that's what you need to put out in the universe is, this is who I want, this is what I want. And it's kind of like, okay, my mom passed away a little over a year ago, and one of the conversations, her, after she passed, was, how do you know if you eat a green banana, how do you know that you're not going to like it unless you try that green banana? Which she's very funny because I do like green bananas.
Oh,
But
okay.
but she's like, that's one thing that she said. She said you would never know if you like it or you don't if you hadn't tried it.
Right.
So it's kind of like getting hurt. Well, yeah, you have to learn, you have to hurt to some degree in order to grow and learn what you do want. And then you deepen that because you open your heart and you deepen it. So that's with everything,
Yeah.
and you were talking about not speaking. Well, okay, my mom passed away about 3 a.m. At 4:35 a.m., I was having a conversation with her. And so and I had been told before, oh, you can't talk to them for 3 days. Really? Why?
That's interesting that
Who
you
puts that
were
rule
told
there?
that.
Yeah, yeah, it was because I'm like, and it was weird because I was driving in the car and I could hear, I mean, I heard her clear as day. So I started answering. She goes, "What? You can hear me?" And I told her, I said, "Mom, 'cause she passed away September 4th. Well, the April before, you know, my grandmother, my 97-year-old grandmother had passed. Well, I was talking to her. So I had the conversation with my mom while she was still in the physical plane that I was talking to my grandma, and she's like, "Ugh, whatever."
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I told you, and so if you if we just open our mind, we can experience so much more.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But then there are people that we don't feel like we can talk to about this though. So,
Yes, my sister told me I was crazy and that was evil.
mhm,
Who told her that?
yeah,
Once again, you're taught, oh, you can't.
yeah,
So, yes, finding a community of people is definitely important because then you feel more open to talk.
yeah. And you can find shared experiences or things that give you that body yes that you were talking about of like,
Yes,
oh my gosh, like this is really what happened to me and I wasn't just going crazy.
yes.
So how have you found your communities? Like, has it been through the practitioners that you've found, or yeah,
Through
how?
some of the practitioners, and then I've just kind of looked online. Now, I've found several online that is like, oh, nope, nope. I
Okay, tell
clicked
me
out of
more.
that because that's not for me. What they're saying, my body, and I just knew it was not right.
Okay,
So, I mean, it's kind of a hit and miss. But then again, even with the practitioners, some of the you're not going to relate to all the people.
yeah,
It's kind of like going to school. Well, you're not friends with all of your classmates, or
hmm
if you are, which would be great, but you're there at different levels with
hmm
them. So you've got your best friend, you've got an acquaintance, and you've got some so-so friends. It's the same. You just find someone that you really, really relate to and stick with them, until although you can grow apart, because if they don't expand their mind and you do, I've shed some of those too.
yeah. Talk to me about this, because it's a very like it's almost a necessity for it to be a lonely path, where you're just kind of figuring out your own true north and what is truth to you. However, it's like a feeling of, well, I also need community because I need to know that I'm not like going crazy in the things that I'm thinking. So, like, talk to me about kind of how you balance that and, what you've done to honor your truth and what you've come to realize on your own versus like what kind of feedback you get from community.
Okay, one, I always speak my truth.
Mm,
Didn't matter what other people think, because we have to realize everyone's on their own journey. Some of them are on their beginning journey, some of them are further ahead, you know, And some people just don't even want to be on a journey,
Yeah.
which is okay. That's perfectly okay.
Right.
But, it depends on where you're at, how open-minded you can be. Seek out the people that are at the level that you want to be at. It's kind of like my mom always said, if you want to be a successful person, surround yourself by successful people. So I try to always surround myself with the people that I agree with and that I want to be like. So, and like I said, integrity is a huge thing for me. So if I feel that they're not so on the integrity thing, yeah, I shed them. See ya, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we've got here. Okay. Talk to me about like when you've tried to find a practitioner and maybe you've encountered challenges in either finding the right people or if there's ever been something that you maybe, I don't know, just take shamanism for an example. If there's anything that you've wanted to develop and you're like not finding the right people or the right resources, have you ever encountered anything where you've just kind of been challenged in finding the right person or resource?
Yes. With the shamanism in particular, number one, I did research just to see, okay, this is what it is, because someone had told me, oh, you need to learn Reiki. Well, my guides, I was sleeping and I woke up and I'm like, do I need to do this? And they're like, you're a shaman, stupid. And my guides are really funny. Okay. So they didn't mean it in a derogatory manner.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like, you're a shaman, stupid. Why would you do that? That's not who you are. So once again, it goes back to standing true to who you are. And I did look at some shaman sites, and now there's the traditional shaman, and then they're also like this modern form. Well, I know that the practices that they were saying, definitely not me, definitely. So kind of, just get in the water. You've got to get in the water to know that the water is wet, but you find the current that you want,
Hmm.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So most of them, if you read a little bit on them, they'll, okay, because if you follow your soul and the little, yes and no and that kind of thing, you know, don't talk yourself out of it, or don't talk yourself into it either.
Yeah.
So, that's part of it. Like I said, in 3 seconds, what's your first instinct? Well,
Yeah.
some of them that I looked at, I'm like, oh, yeah, no,
Uh-huh.
I'm not doing that. That's definitely not me, because I just knew it wasn't. But I
Right.
could talk myself into it. Well, I guess I could try that. But, it's kind of like someone that says, you want to try hot fudge or do you want to eat dirt? Well, if everybody else is eating dirt, maybe I shouldn't know. No, give me the hot fudge.
Right.
So it's the same thing. Stick to your, stick to your integrity, stick to your, who you really are.
Hmm.
If the dirt's not for you, don't look at the dirt.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, and so when you were trying to figure out between traditional shamanism and modern shamanism, which I don't know enough about shamanism to know the distinction, you had just that inner knowing, that intuition that said, "Ooh, this shamanism is not the route for me." So
Yeah.
have you been developing your shamanism? Have you already then started seeking guidance in that?
I know that my ancestors, because I've got several shaman ancestors, and several are my guides also. I have a whole Indian tribe that are my guides. in my guides, and they literally take me astral traveling at night studying. And it was kind of weird because I woke up, I was like right, in front of my face, and I was coming back into my body. I'm like, wow. Okay, so that was kind of weird, but I know that that's what they're doing. They're preparing me.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Okay. I'm so eager to see kind of how this progression goes for you, because it's one of like not your like you're getting direction from guides and from learning during, I guess, dream time, as well as seeking out like your real 3D like
yeah.
practitioners as well. So it's like a conglomerate of an approach. So that's really cool. Okay, so this question, I'm not sure, we may have already covered this. Think about it, the last time you had concerns or fears about working with a spiritual practitioner. How did those concerns impact your decision to move forward or not? So I know you just mentioned the one about the modern shamanism. Do you have any others where you kind of had a red flag and how you determined not to move forward?
Well, most teachers, that it's like any business. Obviously, they want you to do repeat business, but in one in particular, uh, it's like every time you turn around, they're trying to sell something. Oh, you need upgrades. You need this. You need no. I mean, my gut just said no. I don't.
Yeah.
So I am not a sales. I'm not a salesperson. I don't like pushy sales. And yes, in a business you need to sell, but don't harass.
Right.
And so that's a huge thing for me is if I feel like I'm harassed, no, I fall away.
Yeah, because that goes to integrity too. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm just a number to you. I'm just that next sale, So yeah.
Yes, the personal aspect is huge with me.
Hmm.
I have to feel like I'm important.
Yeah. Trying to think, because I'm trying to come up with solutions that are going to help a light worker practitioner who is trying to reach people and trying, with the highest of integrity, of course, not just trying to
Mhm.
sell, how to position themselves um, to where they give off that integrity. And it's a balance of like, I have this skill that I can offer you, but I'm not trying to sell you. I just, here it is. But they still need to attract, customers and whatnot. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I
Um,
would say definitely, especially if someone has already taken like one of your big courses, offer them some free stuff. Give them
mhm.
bonuses. That's a huge thing. One of my teacher, she constantly is giving extra bonuses. Hey, here if you this is an early bird bonus. If you purchase now, you'll get this, da 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 da. And she constantly does, free healings and you know, I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. And another thing is when you have a question, who answers? Do they ever answer? Or is it their office help that always answers?
Mm.
I've run into both of that and I'm like, yeah, no.
Ah,
I don't want only the office help and then only get the main person if I take the course and to talk to them in the course. Well, once again, I want to feel important.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, because you've invested in the experience. It's an experience. It's not just like, oh, I'm one more number in this,
Yeah. Yeah.
cogwheel.
So it's definitely a rapport thing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's kind of like if you had a friend, would you want to always have to go to, you know, a sibling or their parent to talk to them? Well, I don't. I want to talk to my friend. So,
Right.
same thing with the teacher. Same thing. I want to talk to them. You know, I do not expect to talk to them constantly. You know, yeah, if they've got office help, they can also answer my question. But once again, loop it back around to where you're going to answer them eventually.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
to me, that's part of the integrity.
Right. Right. That is a good consideration.
Conditioner.
Okay, so the first question is, think about the last time you tried to find and connect with new clients. Can you walk me through what that process was like and what challenges you faced? Or I don't know, because you're just now starting, maybe you haven't had that experience yet. I don't know.
Well, with some of the people, literally, I just ask in my records, oh, am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? Am I supposed to read for this person? Am I supposed to ask them, you know, for a reading? Because sometimes I have literally come across somebody and I'm just like, once again, I follow my gut feeling and it's just like, I feel like I am supposed to do a reading for them. And so I've just contacted them,
Okay.
you
So
know,
you,
and I've had it both good and bad where someone's like, oh, she just wants to sell something. And then, you know, one person's like, oh, yeah, that would be great. I mean, once again, to me, I have to speak my truth.
mhm.
If I feel guided, you know, to contact somebody, I'm just going to say, hey, I was guided to you. This is what this is who I am. This is what I do. You know, would you be interested?
Okay. And so you've had kind of mixed reactions then from
Yes.
yes, let's do it to who are you, you crazy woman?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. And so, so have you gotten to the point in your business where you are doing any kind of marketing or anything like that yet? Or is it all just one-on-one at this point of like reaching out to people that you feel called to reach out to?
That's what it is so far. I am trying to build my site. And honestly, I'm just like, part of it, I kind of like, oh, well, I think I'm going to go this route, but okay, on social media, do you go just a Facebook site? Do you do your own domain and all that? And so but then again, it's how do I want to build my site? How do I want to find people? So and then once again, it goes back into integrity because there's some things about Facebook I just really don't like. So I'm trying to find the mix.
Yeah, the right path.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly, because Facebook may work for a lot of people, but if you feel like it's targeting people in a certain way that you don't like, or you don't like the algorithms that it's using, or whatever, I mean, you've got to figure out exactly what is in alignment with you and what you stand for, so that you are staying a person of integrity yourself. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Um, all right. So in reaching out to clients, you've done one-on-one, reaching out to them directly. Okay. All right. So let's talk about, have you had any experiences where, um, for your business, it's been like extremely stressful, or anything that you've encountered where it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do in this scenario. Have you had anything like that where, you've kind of reached a point where you're like, oh, I don't know what to do in this scenario?
Not a lot yet, but I've had the biggest challenge that I find is if you give bonuses or give like a free reading to someone, well, that's also what they expect. It's free, free, free. And it's like, but I'm a business at the same time. So trying to balance that has sometimes been a little challenging.
Mm, yeah. So it's like, okay, well, I want to give a lot of value. Like you said, you like a practitioner who gives, free resources, but along with, the fact that you've paid for some of the services as well. And so how much of your value do you provide for free versus what they pay for?
Exactly.
Yeah, that can be challenging. So how are you navigating that? Like, what have you come to so far, and what have you done so far to find that balance?
Um, Basically, I kind of look at it as like, what would I want?
Mm,
What am I looking for? If I was a client, what would I want? Where's my value? What do I see as a value? Because when it comes down to it, I'm seeking clients that are like me. I wouldn't want, you don't just go out there and say, okay, well, I'm in the ocean. I'm going to just get whatever I want. No, see what kind of fish that you do want. Because I was a hairstylist before, um, but I was involved in a car accident, and I was high on integrity there too. Because it's like, if I didn't relate to a person, I, I referred them to somebody else.
mm,
It. So when we look at our daily lives, you have to look at what your value is. Because if you're just like, oh, well, I'll just do it for anybody, you're devaluing yourself and your time. So you need to get that relatable going back and forth and see how you feel, because you want to feel good. You need to keep your vibrations high, in a
mhm,
business, to attract anybody or help them. Because if you're low vibrational, you know, you're not going to help them. You need to bring everybody up, and help them along their journey.
right. Yeah, and I mean, it's such a good point that you're making about not throwing out a wide net to where you're like just attracting whoever off the street, because I mean, you've got to have someone that's far enough along in their journey that, they are willing to look at themselves, because like you said at the beginning, there
Mhm.
are people, and again, it's their journey and there's no judgment whatsoever, but there
Exactly.
are people who are not at all, aware. So, they're just walking through life, in the 3D world, like not really thinking of these other things. And so that's not your client. Like, you need someone who is already looking for the services that you can provide. So that's a very good point. Now, when you were, because, okay, I know shamanism. Are there any other oh, and also you mentioned about speaking with the deceased and, being able to receive messages that way.
Mhm.
Are there other gifts that you feel like you have worked on developing, or anything else that you kind of, tried to investigate further?
Um, I've taken an Akashic record course,
Mm-hmm. Nice.
and I'm furthering that.
Okay.
So, doing the healing in the records,
Mm,
to me, that is, I don't know. I know that's my next step that I'm supposed to do, because, I already do energy work, and I can read the records, and no, and I was told when I very first started my journey that part of my journey was to help others develop their gifts.
mm,
Now, at that point, I definitely was not thinking about a business,
right.
but the guardians told me, "Oh, yeah, you're going to be doing a business." And I'm going to what? So then I just fully stepped into it. And once again, it goes back to, okay, well, what do I want to do? Well, I've got a strong knowing.
Mhm.
My third eye, I was seeing like a lot of visions, and which that's changed, by the way. As we up level, a lot of us people think, oh, well, when I was 7, I was seeing spirits, full apparitions. I could see them. Of course, I could also see dragons and fairies and everything else. Well, then I shut my third eye down.
Mhm.
Well, in my journey that I've been on since I've been an adult, I see spirits, but I usually see them differently. I hear them, but I hear them differently. And I think that we forget as we up level and as we go on our journey, it is different. But it's kind of like um, learning to ride a bike. Okay, first you got to start with training wheels, then you can get on the bike, then you can take the wheels off, but eventually you're going to get on like maybe a 10 speed or mountain bike or something like that. Well, you wouldn't want to go back to the training wheels. It's a whole different experience.
Right.
And the spiritual path is the same thing. You just have to understand it's like my knowing got really strong. And so, the hearing, it was like, but I can't hear him anymore. Well,
Mm.
I actually could, but my knowing got so much stronger, that you sometimes think, oh, well, it's not there anymore. Yeah, it's still there. It doesn't go away, but your knowing is much stronger, or, your other senses are much stronger. So it's like anything else, you have to work on it too.
Mhm.
So it's just an
That's,
awareness.
yeah, that's interesting. I've never really thought of it in that way, that our gifts are just continually developing, and some are going to be more pronounced at different times. That's interesting. Just
Well,
because
okay.
just
I-
because I mean, I consider myself kind of fairly new at this. I mean, I've only been developing my intuition for like 3 years, so I don't feel like I've had, like I didn't have that childhood experience of, well, that I can recall anyway, of experiencing something in a different way. So yeah. Um, okay. So, oh, all right. So you did mention something that I kind of wanted to tap into a little bit more. So you've done the Akashic Records program, which that's where you and I met.
yes.
And then now you're doing healing in the Akashic Records. And so talk to me about like how you develop that ability, and like what you do to gain confidence that you are, definitely connecting, and what that progression looked like from the beginning when you didn't even know how to access the Akashic records, to the point now where you're like, in the records all the time, and, feeling that confidence level. Like, what has the progression been like, and what do you feel has been the most helpful in gaining confidence in your abilities?
You literally work it out. Um, you work with it, kind of like how a bodybuilder works with their muscles. Well, they have to work it to build the muscle. If they don't work their muscles, they're not going to build it. So there's definitely meditation. That's the beginning. Definitely. Um, if you don't know how to quiet your mind, you're never going to hear things. You're never going to know things strongly and firmly. But you just literally do small exercises, and just kind of listen. Okay, well, was that it? Oh, yeah, it was. You know, I had a friend well, I mean, she's turned into a friend. Um, we were doing a course, And we were talking about our abilities, and I said, well, it's kind of like this. If I ask you, where do you want to have lunch? Ooh, you automatically know. But if you, well, I don't know. Well, but if you just instinctively say it immediately, it's the same as your intuition. You can
Mm,
talk yourself into something or out of something. But if you just go with that first split second, and you always do, and you always follow it, you know, it develops because you're always working with it, and like I've never liked the news because it's usually low vibrational. Well,
right.
now I don't watch it at all. So you just choose the little tiny things to pick up on. You start watching nature. You go out in nature for sure. You just do the little things and just work at one thing at a time. It's like coloring a page. You don't color it all at once. You start with one color and start coloring.
Mm.
Then it makes a beautiful picture.
Now, do you feel like you always kind of had this understanding, or I mean, you've developed this understanding over time, I'm assuming, because it's a continual learning process. And I guess I'm just wondering, like, because in developing any of these skills, just say Akashic Records, for example, you know, you've got to practice at some point, right? So practice
Yes.
with others. So what has that looked like? Were you nervous at first, or did you feel completely confident going into it? Or kind of was there any kind of progression in like what you felt your skills and abilities were in the beginning to where you are now?
I was a little nervous at first, but I'm an Aries, if that tells you anything. So it's like, got to jump in with both feet.
Okay.
You're never going to learn. But then again, I trust myself.
Mm,
If you don't trust yourself, you're never going to trust your information.
mm,
You're never going to go further because you don't trust yourself. Everything begins with the self,
yeah.
So hardest thing I had to learn was self-love. Oh, I can love everybody, that's not a problem, loving someone else. But love yourself. I had to learn, what does that really mean? So it's like once I really fell into that, everything else just like exploded.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my. And one of the easiest things that I can say on loving yourself is, okay, if your friend, your best friend, or your spouse, or, whatever, your significant other, if they were in the situation that you're in, how would you treat them? What would you do? What would you say? Hey, say and do and treat yourself
Right.
that way.
Yeah.
That's one of the very basics. And then you learn, if you're loving yourself, you definitely trust yourself because you're loving yourself fully.
For sure. And it's that saying of, heal yourself, heal others, right? Because you really, I mean, yes, you can provide services to others if you haven't fully found that self-love. I mean, I'm sure there's, to some degree you can help others, but until you fully love yourself and, like you said, trust yourself, you're not giving of your full capacity. Like you're not tapping into what your full power is. I think there's like, maybe varying degrees of what you can provide to others if you haven't gotten fully there yet. But once you get fully there, then that's when, the real magic happens. So,
And always stand in your power. I mean, that's a huge thing. You've got, if you don't stand in your own power, your own beliefs, your own morals and values, then you're always going to sway.
Now, question about this, because maybe as an Aries, you never, kind of experienced this, but, and also, are you okay on time just to go a couple of minutes more?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Did you ever grapple with self-doubt as far as the direction that your beliefs were taking you? Like, did you ever, because you said you were brought up religious, did you ever have moments where you were like, oh gosh, maybe I'm not doing the right thing? Like, maybe this is not truly the right thing, and maybe what I was taught when I was a kid was right? Like, did you ever have, kind of any of those moments?
Yes. Um, I used to always read the Bible
Hmm.
and go to church. I mean, I'm very, very strong beliefs in that. And, but I knew the Bible was like black and white. There was not gray areas, I mean, and I just knew, some things just weren't right. Well, on my journey, the things that I have found out, I'm like, oh, that makes total sense now. You know, um, one thing that I love to tell people, there is no hell.
Mm,
And like, and I've had many, many people go, "What? You're crazy." And I'm like, "Really? Okay. If you had a child, they did something wrong, something that like against your rules, would you want them tortured, physically tortured for all eternity?" And they kind of look at me. And this one guy, especially, who was a friend, and he's like, "But the Bible says," and I said, "No, no, no. I know what the Bible says. I used to read it constantly." I said, "I asked you a question." And he's like, "Well, no." And I said, "Then what makes you think that God would, or creator, whatever name you give to that energy,
yeah.
why would you think that they would?" But the Bible said, and I said, once again, I know what your book says. And I said, now, you know, you wouldn't want them tortured. God doesn't want us tortured. I said, by the way, do you want your child to fear you? I mean, literally be in fear of you? And they're like, well, no. And I said, oh, then once again, why do you think God and creator and the divine do? He is all about unconditional love. Look into what unconditional love is. Yes, there's discipline and there's consequences,
Hmm.
but not fear.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, but it's one of those things. Speak your truth, live
Mhm.
your truth.
Mhm. And what I'm hearing from you is, even though there were maybe moments where you questioned, you got reassurances from various areas where you were like, oh, wait, no, this actually is the right
Yeah,
path
just
for me.
it's just like kind of, if okay, well, I like ice cream. Well, what kind of ice cream do you like? But until you look at, oh, okay, chocolate's like this, strawberries like this, vanilla's like this. So which one do I want more of?
Mm,
So yes, you're going to have to try, maybe try them all out. But then you learn, once again, going back to, the green banana. Well, I didn't know I liked the green banana until I tried it.
yeah.
Some people don't like green bananas. Well, that's for them, but I like the green banana. So you have to find out exactly what is right for you in particular. And
Yeah.
then it's like, yep, well, I'm always looking for green bananas now. So now I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So once you test the waters and you find out exactly what you're wanting, then you just take it further. Okay,
Hmm.
well, what else do I want on my banana? What do I want to eat with it? Well, I like chocolate covered bananas. So you just go into a little bit more, and you just take it. Don't stop. Just keep growing, keep going, and just expand.
And I'll add to that, just follow the joy, because once you
Absolutely.
do find those things that you resonate with, you're like, oh my gosh, it just feels so easy. It's like, oh, how could I have ever doubted that, because it feels so right, you know. Um,
And then by doing that, that's where you find self-trust.
mhm.
If you constantly are doubting, then you have to figure out why you're always doubting. Probably we were told something or carried it through to this life, and you start working on the root problem.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're like, okay, yeah, I've been mistaken a few times, not done the right thing, even on this path. We're human at the same aspect. Okay, look at all that I've done right. Oh, look where I was right. Focus on that, and then you'll build that, you're knowing, you build everything, and you'll stand strong in your truth. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've had a lot of people, even on this spiritual path, they're supposed to be on this big, wonderful spiritual path, but we should never down talk anyone because they're right for somebody,
That's right.
or they might be, you may be at one level and they're at another.
Yeah.
Well, some people aren't ready to accept certain things. And of course, I mean, I was there in the same aspect, but then I kind of questioned, okay, why do I believe this or why don't I believe this? And then you weigh your odds. You do that, like same as with any decision. Weigh the pros and cons. They're the only wrong choice is not making one.
Mm-hmm.
If you make a choice, okay, well, now you're going to have another choice because you made that choice. So which way you're going to go, whichever path you take, well, which way you're going to go on that? And it's always expanding. Follow, even though we all may be right, in some aspect, doesn't mean that that right is right for us, even if it's right.
Mm-hmm.
So just follow your heart, follow your love, follow your joy, and take it wherever it leads you.
And it could be a very windy path.
Oh, yeah, it's very rarely a straight path.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I want to value your time, and so I think we'll probably wrap it there. But I do want to offer you the opportunity to tell any listeners that we may potentially have where they can find you and how they can connect with you.
My site is going to be on Facebook, and it's under Angel Innovations LLC. And so I am offering some self-love courses and Akashic record reading, energy healing, and just always expanding.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights and the conversation. It's been lovely. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yes, you're very welcome. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.